So now we'll move to the last presenter of the day before the panel discussion that we've been promising. And so let me introduce myself. I'm Therese Ballard, and I'm the Director of the Sustainable Procurement Practice here at UNOPS. I have decades, ouch, that hurts, of experience in the procurement and supply profession. And I'm delighted to be here today to talk about a topic which doesn't have a sexy title, sustainability, sustainable procurement at UNOPS. However, I want to assure you that everyone at UNOPS is absolutely passionate about sustainability and how we reflect it in all of our project outcomes, whether it's through procurement or infrastructure or project management. So I wanted to use procurement today to talk a little bit about that and how that passion looks when we actually measure the outcomes of our projects. Before we start, I'd like to figure out this application, and I'm going to ask all of you who are still with us to answer the question: has your organization been able to successfully integrate sustainability into your procurement practice? So if you'd like to answer that, we'll do the poll and get the answer a little bit later. Thank you. So let me talk about UNOPS and who we are. UNOPS is a UN organization. We were established as an operating arm of the UN, and we are here to serve people in need by expanding the ability of the United Nations, governments, and other partners. Our vision is to advance sustainable implementation practices in development, humanitarian, and peacekeeping contexts. Our portfolio has over $1 billion on an annual basis of projects that we do in the numbers of about 1,000 projects in over 80 countries. So we have a wide footprint and a lot of opportunities to introduce sustainability. We focus to deliver or provide our services through 3 delivery practices: the sustainable infrastructure practice, the sustainable project management practice, and the sustainable procurement practice. If we look at some of our key achievements for 2012, through procurement, let me say we spent about $740 million to support our many projects. With that, we built 2,631 kilometers of roads. We constructed or rehabilitated 48 hospitals or medical centers. We built 9,600 emergency shelters. We created 2.4 million labor days in local economies. We procured or distributed 9.6 million doses of pharmaceuticals. And let me also say that in UNOPS, 72% of those $740 million were spent in developing countries, leaving the money there and making a big injection into the local economies for fair value. I can stand here and proudly say that UNOPS projects create sustainable results in economic, social, and environmental terms. UNOPS is a leader in sustainable procurement. We had taken an integrated vision towards sustainability and procurement. What you see in this graphic is the types of items that we typically buy, be it vehicles or construction or medical equipment, pharmaceuticals. More importantly, what you see in this graphic are the considerations that we have, or at least some of them, as we think about sustainability when we go to procure any of these items. Are we buying the right item? Is it fit for purpose? What about the carbon emissions? What about the footprint, whether we're buying a vehicle or whether we're transporting goods? What about resource conservation? How are we managing water? How are we managing forests that provide us wood and other products? What about lead design when we're designing construction? And what about life cycle costs when we're measuring the cost or total cost of ownership for products or projects that we deliver? What about things like supplier diversity or youth employment? What about local skills development or capacity building and knowledge transfer? What about national capacity? This is the start of a conversation. When we listen to Henrik about the types of expectations that Maersk's and Moeller have about, from their procurement professionals, these are the topics that we need to know about. We can get invited into the room, but if we don't have the depth, we will not be welcome to stay. And that's what's important when we talk about procurement and when we talk about sustainability. Here I'd like to just take a couple of minutes to go back and look at what is the definition of sustainable procurement at UNOPS and how do we accomplish that.
Often when people think about sustainability, they think about the protection of the natural environment, reducing water consumption, preserving the rainforest, and recycling may come to mind. But this is only part of the story. In 1987, the United Nations published a report that defines sustainable development. It says it means meeting the needs of the present in a way that allows future generations to meet their own needs. At UNOPS, we embrace this inclusive view of sustainability. Sustainable procurement means to mitigate unsustainable production and consumption patterns. The most obvious way to advance sustainability in the procurement context is to reduce the social, economic, and environmental impact of the various products and services we buy. At UNOPS today, we are already applying the principle of sustainable procurement in a number of ways. We scrutinize and view critically our own needs. We support the United Nations Global Compact and strongly encourage our suppliers to do so as well. We have partnered with other UN bodies to develop sustainable procurement training tools, conduct assessments, and develop capacity in sustainable procurement. And we ask our suppliers to agree to specific conditions on mines, sexual exploitation, and the fundamental rights of workers. The way we do procurement can be a powerful tool, sending a signal to the market that its customers are requesting cleaner products, lower emissions and waste, decent working conditions, and more. With a buying power of $800 million per year, UNOPS surely carries enough weight as a customer to influence the phasing out of, say, unsustainable production patterns by simply not buying such products. Before you even start the procurement process, the first thing to do is rethink your needs in order to avoid unnecessary or ill-suited purchases. Make sure that the item you procure is the best one for the job. It's a good exercise to try separating the needs from the wants. Sometimes you may find a better product or service that meets your needs. Defining your needs in well-thought-out specification will help a lot in this context. Luckily, the market today offers a wide range of sustainable products, like those made of recycled material or which offer increased energy efficiency. Thanks to our practice of basing decision on best value for money, a principle which takes the life cycle cost of a product into consideration, UNOPS already today seeks quality products. This can be a lot to remember at times, but there is a wealth of guidance which has been developed specifically for UN agencies. I would recommend the new online training course on sustainable procurement for the UN to everyone. It's a very good crash course to get you procuring more sustainably right away.
So that training program is on our website, and I invite you all to visit. And if you'd like to take that training program, please do. It will get you started. And here in UNOPS, we're about development, and we're about contributing to a better world through our projects. And for that, I'd like to take sustainability from the definition that we've just heard and the basics, and talk about two projects to demonstrate how procurement professionals are working with other members of our team to accomplish value adds that go well beyond the traditional procurement roles. The first one I'd like to talk about is a $14 million World Bank funded project to help 30,000 students in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's a school project where the Congolese government launched a program to renovate schools as part of their efforts to increase student enrollment for boys and girls and improve student learning. Through UNOPS, we built and rehabilitated 58 schools, which included 625 classrooms. We built 58 toilets that were constructed to accommodate separate facilities for boys and girls, because in their culture, that's necessary. 8,000 pieces of furniture were procured on this project. So how did we build in sustainability to achieve more than low-cost, technically compliant and transparency, etc.? Well, the school design considered such elements as culture, gender, environmental elements such as natural cooling, sustainable waste management solutions, materials use and skills transfer for ongoing maintenance requirements after we're gone. Local materials were used for the construction. Local materials were used for furniture making. The use of these materials meant that the carbon emissions were reduced because we didn't have the transportation considerations. Local suppliers and local labor was used for the projects. The results: the design enabled the positioning of the new schools to take advantage of the sun and breeze. Sustainable waste management systems installed. Employment opportunities for local labor were created. Training and skills development was attended to. The outcomes: higher school enrollment. That was the goal. The goal was really better learning, but that was one of the steps to get there. In fact, some of that enrollment was as much as 84% in some cities. School enrollment for girls in 2 cities in Kinshasa, out of 1,560 increased population, 742 of them were girls. There was better sanitation for the school and better hygiene opportunities for the students. 56,700 labor days of local employment. In addition to that, we engaged with the community, and as a result, and we did this right up front, and as a result, ownership in the school was held by that community, and there was the ability to have those schools maintained after we were gone. These achievements reflect a sustainable approach to helping the community own and maintain schools with higher enrollment goals achieved. Think about Henrik's presentation and think about the skill set that was needed by the team of procurement and others, infrastructure, project management, engineers, the community, the government, the World Bank, people, the stakeholders in this project. And think about the actions that had to be taken to accomplish this. That's the new procurement professional. The second project I'd like to discuss with you is UNOPS, creating employment for women through a rural Afghan road project. This was a project located in a very poor rural part of Afghanistan, where the community relied on agriculture for survival. The lack of a road network meant difficulty for people in getting supplies and taking their goods to market. Access to education, healthcare, and other services was difficult. This was an extremely poverty-ridden part of Afghanistan. The Swedish International Development Agency, SIDA, provided the funding for a rural access improvement project in partnership with the Afghan Ministry of Public Works. UNOPS was engaged to build and rehabilitate these roads. With this in mind, there were 85 kilometers of roads and 3 bridges to be built. Up front in the planning stage, in considering how this would take place, some of the considerations included disadvantaged worker groups. UNOPS, in this regard, created jobs for women by incorporating traditional weaving skills applied to metal screen technology so that construction could hold the big boulders that you see holding roads in place, the embankment. This created more than 100 jobs for women. In addition to that, UNOPS created 8,000 jobs for local workers during the construction phase. The results? Improved access to food, education, and health services for almost 800,000 people who inhabited this area. People who lived in the region, as a result of this, improved livelihoods for agriculture-dependent families. That was most of the region. They improved the gender conditions for women, their social conditions, and their status improved. New skills were developed in the community through all the work that was done locally, and in that way, maintaining the roads will be much easier again after we're gone. Again, these projects demonstrate that sustainability can be built into even the most difficult and complex projects in the most difficult areas to do business in. These examples demonstrate how UNOPS is creating value through its focus on sustainability. Procurement actions do not occur in a vacuum. To accomplish these outcomes, procurement works in partnership with our other practices of sustainable infrastructure and sustainable project management. Together, we work with communities, donors, governments, and suppliers, all of those stakeholders, to understand the local landscape and identify affordable, sustainable solutions to the many challenges, accomplishing value adds well beyond the traditional focus of low-cost, best value, and transparency in the procurement actions. While these goals remain intact, as demonstrated in the projects, obviously we're in development. We have to look at total costs. We have to look at how that money is being used. But in addition to that, the expected outcomes can be much greater. To accomplish this requires new thinking, new skills, and new tools from the procurement practitioner. We've heard this consistently from all of the presenters today. The procurement function is evolving. It is changing, and the expectations and challenges will continue to grow in complexity. Businesses demand it. Your employers demand it. You will demand it of yourself. Procurement must operate in a new frontier in different ways. Specifically, procurement needs to be strategic. It is a strategic function. Like I said, we need to make sure we have the competencies so that we're invited to participate in that. Practitioners must have a deep understanding of the organization's needs and that of the marketplace. What's your value add? We have to add value to all functions in the organization. So we need to make sure that we're collaborating with other stakeholders within our organization, connecting the linkages and taking those to the suppliers so that the suppliers can also bring in their solutions and we can work in collaboration and partnership with them to improve our outcomes. Procurement is in a really strategic spot itself in terms of the market. It has the ability to drive innovation for your organization through the suppliers. They are the window to your organization, and you're the one with the ability to latch that window or to open it and connect that innovation with the right people in your organization to really take advantage of it. Procurement must focus on sustainability. It's about whether we're going to be here in the next century or not, and how the quality of life is going to be. It underpins this discipline, this beautiful discipline. Procurement must focus on commodity management if they're going to leverage volumes and achieve all that Henrik was talking about. They must also have intercultural competencies. We work in a global world, being sensitive to the cultures that we're working in, whether it's language, whether it's customs, whether it's respect for resources, whether it's the way they do business. It all becomes critical in the way we interact with other communities that have the opportunity to change how we work and to change our outcomes. In addition to that, and finally, I'd say that what we've measured in the past, the savings, the efficiencies, that has to change. We're really looking at what is the value and how do we define value and how do we measure it. And it's going to be very, very different. So we need some support. We all act independently most of the time. But from time to time we come together in symposiums like this or on the or LinkedIn, or through universities and businesses. And together we can all support where this profession is going. So, in closing and in keeping with today's theme, sustainable procurement, where is the profession going? I hope I have provided some insights on how just one global issue, sustainability, is changing the way procurement works and the critical role procurement can play for our organizations and our communities. I will leave you with another view of how we need to support the evolution of the procurement profession. In this regard, we together, the people here today, we each have a role to play. For the universities, we need to have a greater focus on procurement. We need to make sure that you're graduating students that are well positioned and well trained to handle today's challenges. Universities also need to work closely with business to identify skills needed. And don't forget, those skills are going to continue to change, so that relationship has to be continuous. And together, businesses will find ways to support learning and building talent. And when I said together, I meant universities along with businesses. There's a partnership required there. The professional associations need to step up their advocacy for licensing and for professional recognition. That's what the survey said. I think we in the room agree with that. They also need to ensure that there is a strict code of conduct that we all follow so that we can make sure that integrity isn't questioned as we go forward and find new ways to practice. We, the practitioners, we need to embrace the changes and engage in continuous learning activities ourselves. We have to acquire the new skills needed. And most importantly, we need to lead the charge for professionalism. We need to ensure that we surpass the needs of our business enterprise and of our communities to contribute to a better, more sustainable world. Thank you very much. And we do have the results of the poll. I guess we're just waiting for the wireless transmission. And we say, has your organization been able to successfully integrate sustainability into your procurement practice? Well, the good news is that 35.48% of people are saying yes. And if they have the results that we have with the projects that I shared with you today, that's tremendous and a tremendous impact on our world. So thank you. And for the 64.52 people who have indicated they haven't yet, it's a long journey, But as long as you're on it and traveling down that road, we're all going to build that better road. So thanks for participating. So it's just 4 o'clock. We're right on time. And I'd like to invite the panel to the... we have time for one question, I'm being told. So perhaps I could ask Alex.
Yeah, that's a big one here that we got online. So, but I think that's very specific also to your presentation, Therese. So we have Fabiola who asks, how has procurement supported to reach the Millennium Development Goals?
Procurement has supported the reach of the Millennium Development Goals in a number of ways. Too many for me to enumerate here today. But perhaps suffice to say that every one of those Millennium Goals, whether it's maternal health or whether it's education for girls, whether it's climate change, there's a lot happening, a lot of actions have to happen in order for those goals to be realized. And a lot of that has to do with procuring the right projects, people, actions to support those goals. And we look at different agencies that many of you in the room today and many of you online, from development agencies, UN organizations, NGOs, etc., who have a vested interest in seeing those development goals achieved. What you're doing in your organizations through your procurement, ask yourself, when we do this, are we directing our procurement towards the goals of the MDGs? And I suspect that we are getting there. The goals are being, being advanced, and they're being achieved. And it doesn't go without a lot of effort from everybody, including procurement, to make that happen. I know that's not a very specific answer, but it is a positive one, and I'm guessing that it is the correct one, because if we don't have everybody driving in the same direction, then those goals wouldn't be moving along and being achieved. So thanks for that great question.